Do you know what the big lie is? Do you know you are being silenced and you don't know it? Stay tuned.
From Philadelphia, the home of the Liberty Bell, Financial Freedom Radio starts now. Here's your host, Raymond Jewell.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. This is financialfreedomradio.com. I want to thank you all for coming and downloading. We hope you like the show. We're talking about freedoms and how they are in jeopardy, and we're going to lay it out for you. Steve, how are you doing today?
Doing well, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, dynamite.
That's great.
Remember J.J. Walker?
I remember that. Dynamite.
I used to
dating
love him
ourselves,
because, yeah, but he was in the ghetto. The world was crashing down. Everybody around him had a negative attitude except for him.
That's right.
He was always upbeat and positive, and that's what I liked about that show.
It was a good show.
And that's what we want to talk about today. But first, if you'll go to financialfreedomradio.com or youtube.com/Financial Freedom Radio, and you can subscribe to the show and ring the bell. When you ring the bell, you'll be notified when we put these shows up. We try to do it every Friday, even though we do them earlier, but we have a lot of editing to do. So we do it on Friday. And, hopefully we'll hit our target.
We always hit our targets.
Yes. So we let off the show with, do you know what the big lie is? Stevie, do you know what the big lie is?
One of the things that I always do before we start the show is I say, what prep work do I need to do? What do I need to know? What do I need? You're like, nothing. Let's just go. So I have no idea where you're going to go with this today, Dr. Ray.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you prefaced it with that. The big lie is if you tell a lie long enough, people will tend to believe it.
George Orwell, 1984.
That's been going on for many, many years. And what's happening is our population is one that if they're told the same lie over and over again, they will tend to believe it and will begin to follow the perpetrators of the lie. And we're seeing that over and over again in our population now. You've got, I guess it's more than half of the people are conservatives, and the other half, or the other, I guess 40% are not. And you can't go with the votes that supposedly were cast, because that's not true. But people tend to believe it. You've got the mainstream media that's putting out bad information, and if they do it long enough, people believe it. So let's look at a couple of examples. And I'm sure that you can come up with many more. And if you do, please put them in the contents. But I got lie number one: people that follow Trump are terrorists. I'm a follower, and I don't think I am, but there was no fraud in the 2020 election. Joe Biden won the election fair and square. Kicking people off social media is good for the country. Donald Trump did a lousy job. Coronavirus 19 is morphing into a more lethal virus. Do you have any more, Steve? Can you come up with a few?
Not off the top of my head. You've had time to prepare. No, I can't. But you're going to bring this back to financial freedom, I'm sure.
I am. So I could go on and on about the lies that the mainstream media tells. And if you begin to believe them, you will succumb to their propaganda. And that's what propaganda is. You tell somebody something over and over again, and hopefully they believe it, or in other countries, they get shot. The big lie was used in Germany during the advent of Hitler. And it's been used by many other totalitarian governments, even currently. But the big lie in Germany was about somebody set a fire, and so they convinced Hitler that the people that surrounded him were bad and couldn't be trusted, and so they got killed. And I hope it's never that severe here, but who knows? But our show,
It
Financial
won't
Freedom,
be.
okay, our show, financialfreedomradio.com, is to keep everyone in tune with when your financial freedoms are at risk. And we keep saying when your freedoms are at risk, your financial freedoms are at risk. And so we want to point out the lies that let you know when you are being used financially and when you are being used and when your freedoms uh, are at risk. And there's five freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and freedom of the right to bear arms. And I'm going to go over those a little more in detail when we get to the Constitution. But every one of these freedoms are under assault. Because of these freedoms, we are the freest country in the world today. I'll say it again. Because of our freedoms, we are the freest country in the world today, and other people don't like it. Even people in this country don't like it because they were aiming at your freedoms. Right now, we are being told how we can spend our money. There's a website, gab.com, that has a subscription, but they can't use credit cards because they were taken off. So their freedom of speech has been taken away because they got denied the use of credit cards. So they have to go to checks and other more cumbersome ways of doing business. And we saw people get kicked off of these social media platforms, and the freedom of their speech is threatened. Uh, if you say something in the press, freedom of the press, you'll get what's the term they use, Steve, when they constantly stalk you?
Doxed.
Uh, Doxed. You'll get doxed. And this is a blatant attack on our freedoms of speech and the press. Because and I told you about Gab, if anyone wants to use it, they can't, or they've got to jump through hoops by sending a check every month or going to e-check verification. And it's happening today. So let's talk about the First Amendment. In the First Amendment, and I'm going to read what I got off the internet. And you all know that everything on the internet is true, right?
That's right.
Co-
Bonjour.
Com- Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition a government for a redress of grievances. That's the right to bear arms. And so even if Congress has not blatantly changed the laws, they're allowing other people to get away with doing it. They are allowing the social media platforms to attack our freedom of speech. They're allowing them to attack the freedom of the press. So they're letting external people in our country affect our freedoms. And I've said all along, because everyone reading and understanding that your freedoms are threatened, your financial freedom is threatened too. Because when you deny somebody the ability to process credit cards, you're denying their freedom of speech. When you deny the ability to operate on a social media platform like YouTube. A lot of people make a lot of money off YouTube, and a lot of people make a lot of money off Facebook. And now they can't because they've been kicked off. Their financial freedom is at risk. In all five of the freedoms, they all come back to financial freedom. And we have to understand the financial institutions and how they operate. They operate under four rules. They want to get your money. They want to get it on a systematic and ongoing basis. They want to hang on to it for as long as possible, and they want to give it back as little as possible. If they violate those rules, they're out of business, and that's financial advisors and the financial institutions, because financial advisors are out to make a commission, and their whole job is to get your money, and they'll say and do anything to get it. And again, when they violate these rules, they're out of business. Without a macroeconomic model, it's very hard to see where the flaws are and correct them. When we work with all of our clients, we're able to go into a macroeconomic model, show people where the flaws are, and then they decide whether they want to correct it or not. If they don't want to correct it, we've at least told them. So we're not driven by commissions, we're driven by the desire to get the word out on how to look at your financial freedom, how to look at your financial world, and understand how to make your financial world financially free, because you're not. The financial institutions get your money, the financial planners get your money, the social media people are shutting off your money. The government is moving to programs, even though they haven't yet, moving to programs that will allow you or will restrict you from doing various things that could be profitable to you. There's a movement afoot right now. They've got a ton of troops in Washington D.C. for the inauguration, 30,000, the last number I heard. And if they stay there after the election, there's going to be some big trouble. Hopefully they'll leave. Hopefully they'll be sent back to their respective states. But if they maintain, and that's what I call the current regime, they maintain a military presence in Washington, D.C., then it started. And I don't mean to be a creature of gloom and doom, but I got to tell you, I've never in my years, my 76 years on this planet, seen anything like this. And I'm just concerned about our financial freedoms, but I've got to bring all this information together because we're going to constantly talk about the freedoms and how they dovetail into financial freedoms. We're going to constantly be bringing your attention to the fact that they're at threat. Our financial freedoms are being threatened. And since money is the main way that we exchange for goods and services, we have to maintain those. But primarily, we have to maintain our 5 main freedoms. Now, if you have any other freedoms that you think that should have been in the category, and I'll go through them again, the freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, and freedom of the right to bear arms. If you know any others, put them in the comments section on my blog, raymondjewell.com. And I'd like to look at them, because this is what I've in my research, I found out that our freedoms consist of the 5 main freedoms, and they're in where are they? They're in the First Amendment of the Constitution. So if you got any others, please go over to my blog, raymondjewell.com, and go into, do you know what the big lie is, and just put them in there, because I'd like to know what they are. So carrying this a little further, we want to make sure that we operate in a macroeconomic policy. In 2 weeks, our show in 2 weeks, we're going to bring in a fellow that's going to talk about the macroeconomic view of your financial world and how he works with clients and brings it to the forefront and lets them see it. But first of all, I want to caution you, don't fall for the big lie, and always pay attention to your freedoms and your financial freedom. And if your financial freedoms are at risk, if somebody's asking you to give them money, and you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. Financial people do it all the time. They constantly are after you to give them more money, because that fuels the beast. The more money they can get, the more money that they can spend, and they can actually use it and grow it at the same time. If you remember our show, Use and Growth Simultaneously, you have with your money, you have to use it and you have to grow it at the same time. So when you get use and growth simultaneously, you're winning the game. The financial institutions do that all the time. And that's why they're able to buy these mansions and have private jets and all that. It's your money. And they're spending your money on your back. So don't fall for the big lie. Verify everything before you do it. What did Ronald Reagan say, Steve? Trust but verify.
Was that Reagan?
I think it was.
I'll have to look that up.
So, and also fight to save your freedoms. And don't let others take them away from you. They're precious. And as I said earlier, we are the freest country on the planet because of our freedoms. Our forefathers made it such that we, with our freedoms, became the freest country on the planet. But we had to fight to get to that point. So you've got to fight to maintain your freedoms. And I'm not saying physically fight, but you've got to constantly be getting up in people's face and telling them, you're attacking my freedom. Also, with a macroeconomic model, you can actually see where the losses of money are in your financial world and how to recover them. I think last time we figured out we were showing people how to recover anywhere from 10 to 20% of their gross income or revenue. So if somebody's making $100,000 a year, they're losing $10,000 to $20,000 a year, and they didn't know it. What would that do in your financial world as far as retirement goes? Or even if you put half of that in retirement and spend half. So you want to focus on the macro view of your financial world. So the main goal today, the takeaway, is to understand your 5 freedoms. If there's more, we'll find out. And make sure that you protect your wealth and protect your freedoms, because financial freedoms come from the 5 freedoms. So I want to thank you all for coming and listening and downloading. I want to thank you all for telling your friends. And if you're not, we'd like to have you do that. We do build our show on referrals, and give them the link, and just give us 90 days. And if you don't like us, don't listen again. But again, thank you all for coming and downloading, and we'll see you back here next week. FinancialFreedomRadio.com. Take care. God bless.
Thanks for listening. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast. If you want to learn how to create real sustainable wealth like the extremely rich people do, or maybe you just want to sustain the wealth you already have, you need to check out Dr. Ray's new book, Why the Rich Are Rich. Ray's been coaching clients for 35 years and has completely unlocked the secret strategies that rich people use day in and day out to grow and sustain their wealth regardless of what's going on in the economy. His book is completely free, and you can get it by going to whythericharerich.com and entering your email address. Again, that's whythericharerich.com. Head over there now.